Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the foreign policy of Pakistan. And the good aspect is that if you look at the overall performance of the Foreign Office of Pakistan, lately we have observed that the relationship between Pakistan and the regional countries and a couple of other countries, it has really increased. The cooperation has increased, the understanding has increased, and on top, if there was a problem with countries like Iran for that matter, or even Afghanistan, the trust deficit has also decreased. So that's a very, very positive sign. Pakistan has always tried that it should have great relationship with its neighbors, whether it's India, or it's Bangladesh, or it's Afghanistan, Iran, or otherwise. And Pakistan has been very successful in organizing such an atmosphere where people can listen to us now. We are heard, not only at the regional level, but at the global level also. I think Prime Minister Imran Khan gave one of the best speeches, around 52 minutes in the United Nations, throwing light on 4 important areas. That was about Islamophobia, that was about Kashmir issue, that was about the progress of Pakistan, the kind of threats we face. And that was considered as one of the best speeches there. So things have improved over the last couple of years as well. Now, if we talk about the Pakistan-Iran relationship, the latest development tells us that the Chinese, they will be pouring in around 400 billion US dollars for the next 25 years. So definitely a lot of credit goes to Pakistan. There's going to be a lot of trade between the two countries. When you talk about Pakistan and Afghanistan, I recently had a chat with the Commerce Minister, Razak Daud Saab, and he was saying that now Pakistan will also negotiate regarding the bilateral trade as well as about the Afghan trade transit. So that is again something very, very important and the kind of role Pakistan has played in making sure that there should be a dialogue process. The Taliban and the government of Afghanistan as well as all the other stakeholders should be on the same page. Pakistan has been able to do so. You talk about Pakistan and Russian relationship. Remember the visits of General Bajwa, earlier than that, the previous chiefs to the Russian Federation, and that was a very good and positive side. We got a lot of support. There is no need to talk much about Pakistan and China. We all know the kind of relationship these two countries have and the way the Chinese have looked after Pakistan at the time when there was no investment pouring into Pakistan, and especially during the last government and even before that. You talk about Pakistan and United States of America. I think the relationship, which was at a very, very difficult, I would say, situation at that time, has really and significantly improved. Talking about Donald Trump, he wants to mediate between Pakistan and India regarding the Kashmir issue. That was something very welcoming. Obviously, the Indians, in fact, backed out from that also. You talk about other countries, European countries for that matter, things are improving on that front as well. You talk about trade, Pakistan has now decided to go towards the African side, Look Africa. And recently there was this very important meeting in Kenya. So that shows that the trade corridor is now open, and we will soon be in fact counting all those countries in terms of trade, whether you talk about Libya, you talk about Egypt, you talk about other northern African countries, and also at the tip, South America. So a lot is happening on that front as well. Latin America, Pakistan has got some great ties with countries like Argentina, Brazil for that matter, even Venezuela. So these are the developments. But when it comes to India and comes to Kashmir, that is where the conflict seems to be. The Indians, they have hegemonic design and they want to destabilize Pakistan because they believe that Pakistan is the only threat for some reason. Rest of those countries, whether you talk about Nepal, Pakistan has in fact really helped them out. They are very close to Chinese now. You talk about Bangladesh. Recently, the Prime Minister made a telephonic call to the Prime Minister there and had a very interesting conversation. And obviously, Pakistan has said regarding the corona issue and if Pakistan could be of any help. Again, something very positive. We do understand the kind of relationship between Pakistan and Sri Lanka, Pakistan and Maldives. Hardly there are 6-7 embassies in Malé, in Maldives. One of them is of Pakistan. So you can well imagine the kind of importance they also give us. So a lot is improving, a lot is happening. And I hope in the future, this region, we always call it a very geostrategic area or geopolitical area for that matter. We have paid the price, but eventually Pakistan will be looked after because we have paid a very heavy price, honestly, whether in terms of money or the kind of sacrifices Pakistan has rendered during the last so many years because of this war on terror. To talk about this, we have with us Tariq Pirzada Saab, who is a senior analyst. Tariq Pirzada Saab, thank you very much, sir, for taking out your time and talking to PTV World. And we will also be talking to Dr. Asma Shakir Khwaja Saiba. Ma'am is an author, writer, teacher, foreign affairs expert. Thank you very much, ma'am. And we will also be taking some input from Lieutenant General retired Talat Masood Saab, who's also a senior analyst. But let me start off from Tariq Pirzada Saab. Pirzada Saab, if you look at the overall performance of the Pakistan Foreign Office or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for that matter, and let's throw light on the last 2 years. Do you see significant improvement as far as Pakistan and the regional countries are concerned, not only in terms of having a great relationship, but also improving the trade ties, decreasing the trust deficit, and also looking after the affairs? Now, it seems that Pakistan has done brilliantly well during the last 24 to 28 months. Your take, sir?
Well, the crux of the foreign policy of any country lies in the fact that how you exploit the situation in a changed circumstance, like it has changed radically, drastically in subcontinent of Pakistan, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh, and of course, I don't want to exclude Afghanistan at the same time. So Pakistan has shown some initiative in a very constructive way. But let me give some credit to the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He has been very savvy in terms of handling foreign relations, particularly excluding India, particularly in this region. So I did not mention China. Well, as you mentioned in your intro, we don't have to overemphasize the need for closer relations between China and Pakistan. It's already known to us, and we believe that it will continue to grow. So may I make an observation at this time? Look, the policy of India in the last 4 years, rather prior to that, prior to the recent Indian election, and prior to the incorporation of occupied Jammu and Kashmir by the authoritarian policy of Mr. Narendra Modi, his Hindutva policy, and his radical policy to dominate the region. So that has really done damage to the entire environment in subcontinent, because India is a big country. But I must say that on the one hand, it has damaged the situation, overall diplomatic peace and an initiative in the region, peace initiatives in the region, they have been stalled as a result of Indian intransigence and Indian policy over Kashmir. But as I said earlier, Pakistan has taken advantage of that. It has been able to forge strong relations with Nepal, stronger than before, with Sri Lanka, and now there has been some movement on the front of Pakistan and Bangladesh fraternal relations. I hope Hasina Wajid understands that she is a lady from a Muslim country that used to be a part of Pakistan. Historical bitterness should not be allowed to dominate the entire spectrum of relations between any two countries. If the relations between United States and Vietnam, which are marred by a very long war and hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese, that are being dead as a result of that, if they can be normalized, we are not that. Our relations between our relations between Pakistan and Bangladesh, they should not be that following any hostile path any longer. So the problem has been so far the policy of Ms. Hasina Wajid. I hope that the initiative of Prime Minister of Pakistan, mends the fences, and she understands that it's time to have closer partnership with Pakistan.
I hope she does. Now, over to you, Ma'am Asma Shakir Khwaja Saiba. Your take on the same point. How do you see this last 24 months, 2 years, and the foreign policy of Pakistan? Where would you rate it?
Yeah, definitely we have to acknowledge the gains of foreign policy during last few months, because Pakistan is very successfully negating the general impression created by our certain people that Pakistan is being isolated, and now we can see that Pakistan is not only forging bilateral relations with the neighboring states and within the region, and successfully Pakistan is forging the interdependency, economic interdependency. This project of CPEC and the BRI, they are actually Pakistan's investment in peace, and this is how the whole region is can be connected on and will have similar stakes, whether they are economic or political or social, in an economic project. And this is how world is or the developed world try to resolve their long-standing conflict, involve each other in mutual, in bilateral, trilateral, multilateral projects, so that all countries can have their mutual stakes in peace and peaceful coexistence. So whatever I really appreciate, and I would like to add a bit that Pakistan tried to forge better relations even with India. If we see,
Yes.
like at the time when the Prime Minister Imran Khan, he took oath, he offered Kartarpur corridor as a peace corridor to India, but the response is not that positive or encouraging from the other side of the border. So that is why Pakistan does not, like, Pakistan has this common
Exactly, Asma
approach
Saiba, that has
to
been
move
the
forward
problem.
on the
Now,
path
ma'am,
of humanity.
another question to you regarding the relationship between Pakistan and Turkey. That was always fantastic, mashallah. It has also improved a lot. These two leaders, Imran Khan as well as Tayyip Erdogan, I mean, they are somebody people look up to as Muslim leaders. You talk about Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, despite the Iranian issue, still Pakistan managed to keep a great relationship with Saudi Arabia. You talk about Malaysia. If you remember when Mahathir Mohamad was in Pakistan, he was so happy and always supported Pakistan. You talk about Iran, their stance in Kashmir for that matter, or other Muslim countries. So when you talk about OIC, the Organization of Islamic Conference, now how do you see that part, ma'am? Do you think Pakistan has been able to, in fact, mobilize those countries in its favor when it comes to Kashmir for that matter, or otherwise? Issues regarding Muslims, whether it's about Rohingya Muslims or Muslims being killed in Kashmir or any other place in the world.
Yeah. In international relations, we believe that don't go for what nations say, go see how they act. And as you mentioned, OIC, it's for the first time after long, like since long, that OIC first time had a statement and issued a memorandum on Kashmir issue. The current government successfully mobilized OIC in favor of Kashmir and raised the human rights violation and right of self-determination, which has been subjugated by colonial power India. So they raised it in OIC as well. They tried to mobilize all the friendly states, as you yourself mentioned, whether it is Turkey or it is Malaysia or it is these are the other countries. So Pakistan is not only, like, I would say, as a student of international security, how I see it as Pakistan not only talking about peace or cordial relations with the country, but Pakistan is trying to support those relations with mutual cooperation, economic cooperation, trade ties, and mutual projects. If you remember, Pakistan, Malaysia and Turkey, we are trying to build common economic community by supporting and by mutual cooperation with all those states, including regional states of SARC. And if we see SARC, Pakistan since long, like since ever, Pakistan is a strong supporter of an active role of SARC, whether it is economy or it is South Asian society or it is trade. And we all know that when it comes to regional cooperation, South Asia is the least connected region of the world, where the regional countries are not that much connected when it comes to economic or trade ties because of the I would say the hegemonic role of the biggest state in the region, the state which neighbors or borders each and every state of South Asia, but other South Asian states, they don't border with each other. And this thing is being used by that hegemonic state against the regional cohesion, regional connectivity, and regional cooperation. And this is how the importance and functioning of SARC is being undermined immensely by that hegemonic power. Because if SARC would be active or SARC would be proactive, then each and every South Asian state or SARC state would have equal footing, equal standing, and equal
Absolutely.
vote and a platform to resolve their problems. And maybe that hegemonic power doesn't want it that all other South Asian states would have the similar stance, similar power of vote, and similar platform to share their problems and viewpoints, because that power, that hegemonic power wants to overshadow the importance and sovereignty and integrity of all other regional states.
That is
And
the
this
primary
is what
reason
I
SAARC has become a non-functional, I would say, organization, unfortunately. Now, Tariq Pirzada Saab, talking about the role of SCO. I think that has played a very important role, despite the fact that the presence of the Russians, the Chinese, and then Pakistanis and Indians were inducted. A couple of other states were the observer states. And then we are talking about the Central Asian states primarily. Now, they are full of energy resources. Things are getting better. Iran is doing a lot of cooperation with the Chinese. So it seems that another 5 to 10 years down the line, this region is really going to grow and grow well at a much faster rate. All these countries would be connected. Energy resources would be common. And, you know, there's so much we can see and the potential that exists there. Now, talking about all these Tan countries, as kids call them, Azerbaijan, we talk about Turkmenistan, we talk about so many other countries out there, small and big, all. Talk about that, sir.
Well, you know, you have made a great point, and this is the right path, which is I call it the Central Asian path of Pakistan's foreign policy. If we follow it correctly, if we resolve the issue of Afghanistan, and at the same time we establish a parallel route through the Xinjiang province from Central Asia into Pakistan. So we need, let me make my point a little more clear. We need two routes, one through Afghanistan, one through China into Central Asian states. So in case of any problem arising in future, we have an alternative arrangement, and no blockade of trade between Central Asia and Pakistan is ever impacted. Number one. Number two, I do want to clarify a little bit who is the hegemonic power. We are talking about the enemy state, India, a country that occupies Jammu and Kashmir. That is an enemy state. So we need to be a little more clear on what we are talking about. If we are not clear, the man who is winner on the diplomatic and military front, he will definitely be. His name is Narendra Modi. So we have to be clear that there is an enemy state, and unless the issue of Jammu and Kashmir is resolved, India must not be mentioned any other way. Number three, I did want to mention one thing, that in addition to this great prospect of ties, economic, trade, military, cultural ties between Pakistan and Central Asia, we need to remember one thing, that Pakistan's own contribution is very important. We have to build our economy, we have to build our internal strength and cohesion and military power to the point where we can be seen as being able to contribute to the whole range of relationship between these countries. You remember Agha Shahi used to say, where is the beef between the relations that is Pakistan and China? So then CPEC came and that beef was provided. But still, we have to be able to contribute our share in terms of economics, culture, and other areas which are important to strengthen bilateral relations. But at the same time, I do want to mention again and want to give some credit to Prime Minister Imran Khan for one thing, that he has been able to correct a lot of things in terms of relations between Pakistan and the United States. And this has happened not because of any foreign office or any other instrumentality. It is just the personality of the man named Imran Khan. And it is never easy to deal with a very crooked person, I'm sorry to say, like Donald Trump. Look, the way he is handling the situation within the United States, he's creating problems. So dealing with a man of that mood, who has so many vicissitudes in his thinking and policies, that was never easy. So I must give credit that the Prime Minister has been able to handle his relationship with the Trump administration, and that has really resulted in terms of a lot of progress on Afghanistan. Although it is a little slow, but I hope before Mr. Trump leaves, we can resolve the issue of Afghanistan, because the departure of U.S. forces from Afghanistan, and this is the key thing, it is in the vital national security interest that that the Afghan issue is settled through negotiations, and that the United States totally withdraws from that country. And the man who believes in that, his name is Donald Trump. Let's take advantage. Otherwise, you know, the conventional foreign policy of the United States, that comes from State Department, National Security, from Pentagon and other establishment institutions. That is the conventional, the foreign policy, and that is not in place at the present time. It is the Donald Trump's personal policy. So let's take advantage of that. And if we don't, over the gains made by the effort of Prime Minister Imran Khan, they may be lost.
All right. Asma Shakir Saiba, I really want you to focus on Bangladesh now. As we all know, that the Prime Minister called and he expressed his desire for a closer relationship with the Bangladesh. Now, we all understand that recently, around in February, Mr. Imran Siddiqui, a great diplomat, was posted there, and he's acting as he's serving as a High Commissioner there. And then he also recently met the Foreign Minister of Bangladesh. Now, that is something very positive on that front, because earlier, even we talk about the Prime Minister Hasina Wajid, she would sometimes spit venom against Pakistan. I don't know why, but we have heard some very negative comments and remarks from her also. Do you think after this particular call, this kind of an engagement, things are heading in the right direction? I'm not saying that things would improve within a day or week or something, or right after Eid. But what I'm saying, at least Pakistan has taken a great initiative, and it is going to compel the counterpart, the Bangladeshi counterpart, to sort of engage Pakistan and stop believing in what the Indians tell them to do.
Yeah, in international relations, we believe that nothing is static, and engagement is always better than confrontation. So I see the developments between Pakistan and Bangladesh as really encouraging, and both countries are walking on the same path. Both countries are developing. They are underdeveloped. They have shared fears. They have shared problems, and they have shared goals of human development, goals to move forward on Human Development Index. And these both countries have shared past as well. So why not? It is, I believe it is height of maturity on the part of both governments, especially on the part of Bangladeshi government, that actually now they are thinking, and they are positively replying or reciprocating Pakistan's initiative to forge bilateral, peaceful, cooperative bilateral ties. So it is actually, they are on the right path. And I would like to add a bit regarding your question regarding Central Asia and energy states. Your question reminded me the dream of Pakistan when Central Asian states got independence from Soviet Union. Pakistan was the country which suggested to expand ECO, Economic Cooperation Organization, from Pakistan. Initially, the members were Pakistan, Iran, and Turkey, but Pakistan included Central Asian states in that organization. So, in order to forge more solid economic cooperation with Central Asian states, I think it is the right time for Pakistan, Iran, and Turkey to reactivate the ECO organization, so that we all can grow as an ECO region, we all can be developed as ECO region. And this is why Pakistan and Bangladesh are learning from the mistakes of past, and they want to develop as a region. So it is really, we should not have high hopes, because high hopes actually makes the situation and diplomatic efforts a bit stressful. So we should hope for the best, and see that if that how Pakistan and Bangladesh materialize this improvement
That is going to be
of
step two.
bilateral
That is going
relations.
to be after this. But Dr. Asma Khwaja, we've also been joined in by Lieutenant General Talat Masood Saab. And first of all, General Saab, thank you very much for talking to PTV World. Now, let me put the same question to you regarding Bangladesh. General Saab, the relationship between Pakistan and Bangladesh wasn't improving, and primarily because of the Indian influence on the Bangladesh and their government primarily. And now it seems that since Pakistan has extended a hand of friendship through Prime Minister Imran Khan, things will take a turn. I'm not saying it is going to be a different Bangladesh tomorrow, but I would say that they have also stepped in the right direction. And the engagement, historical engagement between the two countries will improve. Jal Saab, your take.
Well, I think it's just the beginning. I think we shouldn't be all of a sudden over optimistic and try to sort of swing the other way. But definitely, I fully agree with you that the Prime Minister's initiative was very positive. I think he really took advantage of the fact that at the moment Pakistan is wanting to broaden and try to forget the past, legacy of the relationship, and especially, after what happened, when Bangladesh took action against all those people and tried to try them, the
1971,
ones
yeah?
who were
Yeah,
supposed to
Jamaat
be
Islami.
involved, the Jamaat Islami people, and tried to sort of try them in military courts, and many of them were hanged. And I think that really soured the relationship between the two countries. So I think Pakistan has taken the right initiative, and at the moment, as you know, there is a lot of friction between India and Bangladesh on the question of the migrants, because India is trying to push back all the Biharis and Bengalis back into Bangladesh, which would be a huge economic burden on Bangladesh, and it is a point of contention. And then India is trying to also, as always, has been very sort of bossy and trying to sort of hegemonic designs on Bangladesh, which it is trying to sort of circumvent. And so I think this was an opportune moment, and the Prime Minister took a very bold and a correct initiative by trying to engage with the Prime Minister. And I'm sure that the response must have been equally positive, and the two countries can revive their relationship. There is so much in common between the two countries. We have been a part of Pakistan for several years until we separated. So I think there are great opportunities of trade and commerce. There are also great opportunities of cultural exchanges, and I think it will benefit both the countries. So I think this is a good opening, and we hope that in all areas there will be development. But let me also say one thing, that unless there are positive sort of developments in the sense of trade, commerce, and cultural, and also I think there should be better linkages in terms of aviation. Our PIA and their airlines should have frequent, I think in a week we should
Exactly,
have
very
several
important.
flights between the two countries. All these things would matter, and it will take some time before these things would develop. But I think there should be an earnestness towards developing all that, because the distance is a barrier. Then we also have to see as to where there is a complementarity between the two countries.
General Saab,
We have been together. Ji.
General Saab, who was the last Bangladeshi leader who visited Pakistan? You have any idea?
Well, I wouldn't be able to recall exactly, but
Because haven't heard recently, like for decades, I would say. I think it's very important to also send her an invitation,
No, I think
extend her
what is
invitation to come and
important is
visit
that-
Pakistan.
you have raised a very important question in the sense what you are trying to imply is that it's important to invite the Prime
Yeah.
Minister And I think Prime Minister has already done that perhaps while he was
Okay.
talking to her. Well, I presume that he must have said that we would like to sort of exchange visits and we would like to invite you. I'm sure he must have. Even if he hasn't, I'm sure he'll do that. Even if he hasn't, which I'm sure he has. So that is very important because, you know, the personal sort of engagement is extremely important. And there is also Prime Minister Imran Khan has taken a very bold initiative, and I think the present circumstances, the relationship with India as far as BD is concerned, all these things point towards the fact that I think both the countries would like to revive their relationship and to see to what extent they can move and collaborate to the benefit of their people and also for the benefit of the region. And SAARC can also play a very important role in this. And if Pakistan and Bangladesh have policies in SAARC which are more unifying, then I think it can act as a counterweight towards the negative attitude that India has taken towards SAARC.
Yep, very important point, sir. Thank you very much, Jalal Saab, for your comments. Now, over to you, Tariq Pirzada Saab. I'm sure you have heard what Jalal Saab said, that relationship has to improve. The good foreign policy is that you make less enemies and more friends. Simple equation. Now, in this very context, it seems that the Prime Minister of Pakistan, he realizes that and he is exactly doing what is supposed to be done, especially regarding Bangladesh.
Oh, well, I do agree with the facts, and I already mentioned that in the first part of my, answer to one of the questions, that yes, it is a great move by the Prime Minister of Pakistan. It makes one less enemy in the region. It reduces the number of enemies that Pakistan has had in the region as a result of the Indian policy. So the foreign policy of Bangladesh, which has been primarily dominated by India because of their strategic relations with their armed forces, in terms of trade and commerce and everything, they are still very close partners. Remember, let's not mislead ourselves into believing that the relations will improve dramatically overnight between Pakistan and Bangladesh. But a good start has been made by the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Let's wait for the response from the Bangladeshi side, because I have not seen in the paper, when I read the whole text of the telephonic conversation, that the entire conversation that we read was what the Prime Minister of Pakistan said. But there's nothing much other than a reference to the corona epidemic by...
They did talk about enhanced regional cooperation, also invited Prime Minister Wajid to visit Pakistan, and other than that, it was more or less about coronavirus and human losses due to recent flooding in Bangladesh.
If the Prime Minister of Pakistan who's doing it, then I hope that lady, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, responds in kind. Then let's wait for that, because we have become a mature nation. We make a good start, diplomatic start, but then we don't want to rush to the conclusions, as we have been doing in the past. So this is a good start. Let me give credit to the Prime Minister. He has shown leadership, but let's wait for what the lady
But
says.
Pirzada Sahab, there is another point. I mean, the kind of influence the Indians have over the Bangladesh government, the current government, it seems that they will definitely play a very negative role in that regard. Secondly, sir, if you look at the choices made by the Prime Minister earlier, like for example, Sadiq Khan Sahab was sent as a special envoy of Pakistan to Afghanistan regarding the peace and everything, and he's done a brilliant job. And I think he has been able to oust India from various very important areas, and now Pakistan holds a very good position, and that is why we see peace prevailing in the region. Number two, when it comes to Bangladesh, I think Imran Siddiqui Sahab is a brilliant man who was sent there in February, and he later on met the foreign minister, and I'm sure he paved the way for this particular talk as well. So I think if you keep the right kind of foreign office person at the right place, you do get results, Pirzada Sahab.
Absolutely. No, I don't disagree with you. I mean, a good, mature diplomat always turns out to be an asset. And I hope this new envoy from Pakistan does exactly that as expected. But at the same time, I must say that given the way Pakistan's foreign policy has been in the past, we must continue to have Prime Minister level leadership provided to the foreign policy of Pakistan, not only in relation to Bangladesh, but in all other relations. I made a reference to the very strong relationship and rapport that the Prime Minister of Pakistan was able to and has been able to establish with Donald Trump. Similarly, if we can have good results and we are responded in kind by the Husina Wajid, the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, I think that will be a very good step forward and a setback for India. Because remember, any improvement of relations between Pakistan and Bangladesh will be seen in India as a setback to the foreign policy of India and that of Narendra Modi. Remember, just a couple of years ago, he went to Dhaka and he talked about shared blood between India and Bangladesh. He was making a reference.
Addressing in Dhaka University, I remember, yes.
Exactly. So we have to strive very hard. The Prime Minister has to strive very hard, and the Foreign Office has to strive very hard to make sure that we can make a very heavy dent in terms of relations between Bangladesh and India. And this is not a bad start. I must commend the Prime Minister.
All right. Now, over to you, Asma Khwaja. And the point is now, let's go a little beyond. The relationship between Pakistan and United States of America has also improved significantly. And a person like Mr. Donald Trump, who's not an easy person to handle, I think Khan Sahib has done a brilliant job on that account as well. The kind of, if you remember when he went there and he addressed the Pakistani community, it was one of the biggest show there. I mean, so many Pakistanis were there. And then I'm sure the American authorities have also realized how popular this person is.
Yes, Pakistan and US, the bilateral relations between the two countries have remarkably improved during the regime of PTI Imran Khan, and that reminds us that it is more important that how you put your point forward, and if you are if a person is convinced and he knows that how to convince the counterpart, then there is always a room for the improvement of bilateral relations. We all know that during last few years, Pakistan and US and the United States over different issues were not enjoying quite cordial relations. But see, this is the achievement of the Prime Minister and his team, that Pakistan managed to facilitate or to support USA and Taliban to forge a peace deal in Afghanistan, which is a dream which was the dream of several governments in the United States, but they were unable to achieve that. So now, with the help of Pakistan, they have finally. They can see light at the end of the tunnel in which they entered because of their certain policies. So I see that Pakistan, again, here is the trend which is common when we analyze Pakistan's bilateral relations with the neighboring states. The trend is of not only we are not only talking diplomatically moving forward, but we are actually laying a solid foundation of bilateral cooperation with those countries, and then we are moving forward. And then we have seen the statements of Donald Trump and the U.S. officials on the issue of Kashmir and their urge to both countries to resolve this conflict, long-standing conflict, peacefully. So I think in a civilized world, this is how countries try to convince the other countries to resolve their conflicts and do not endanger the regional peace. But unfortunately, the fascist Hindu regime in India, they are not listening to the same voices, but that is another story. And as you questioned, your question to Mr. Tariq Pirzada about Bangladesh and India's reaction over Pakistan and Bangladesh improving their bilateral relation, this was a query in my mind as well. So I started this morning, I started reading Indian newspapers and how they are projecting this small little first step in the right direction. So I was surprised to see that how insecure they are feeling,
Exactly.
and how how negatively they are portraying this one telephone conversation, and how they are hoping against the hope that this conversation would be futile and would be unable to bring the positive or desired results for the two brotherly Muslim nations. And yes, all nations and every, I think every country of the world, in every region, the regional countries had bilateral differences or conflicts or difference of opinion or different visions, but they all learned and they developed shared vision and shared future. And why not? Why South Asia or Pakistan or Bangladesh cannot do that? So, and then I think the issue of Bangladeshi Muslims in Assam and other bordering Indian states, and the treatment of Modi regime towards those Muslims, and the mob lynching and the construction of those jails for them, and all those things, they played their role. And I wonder that how Modi regime expected that Bangladeshi government would not respond to all that policies of hatred against its people.
You can't
And
live in isolated world, ma'am. That is a reality. And interestingly, India and their agencies and the government and everyone, they tried their level best to sort of isolate Pakistan. But interestingly, what has happened is that they've been able to isolate themselves instead of Pakistan. Now look at the relationship with Nepal or Bhutan, or even with Bangladesh. There were issues over the rivers and a couple of other problems regarding dams. With Pakistan, we all know. What is happening in Afghanistan, we all know. They have been ousted from Iran regarding the rail project also. Look at the relationship
and Chabhar also
regarding Maldives or Lankans for that matter. So Indians...
The moment Modi regime constitutionalize this discrimination against Muslims and have this citizen amendment bill, they actually, I think any person would be insane if he is unable to calculate the consequences that
Ma'am, the
this hatred
CAA
towards one
35A
single
or
Muslim-
370 article primarily, whether we talk about Kashmir or Injil, I think the moment any country, a country that big like India in terms of population, otherwise, if they take such measures, such steps for that matter, where they are discriminating the minorities, this is what is bound to happen. Anyway, ma'am, thank you very much for your participation.
One sentence, can I say?
Please go ahead. Quick comment.
Yeah, I just wonder that if India is so state, hegemonic state in the region, why they are insecure from the possibility of two South Asian states forging towards the path of peace or forging peaceful bilateral ties. Why India is insecure of this? And this shows that how India desperately wants to keep SAARC dysfunctional so that the regional states should not move forward
Such
on
a
the
huge organization, no trade at all. Look at the potential and look at the final product and the results. Anyway, Khwajah Sahiba, thank you very much. Pirzal Sahib, was a pleasure, and thank you so much, General Talat, for your participation as well. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you inshallah on Monday. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Khuda Hafiz from our side.